What's up guys, welcome to my top 5 early game tames. Now just like the last video, this list is limited because I'm on ARK Survival Ascended. Maybe if I was on ARK Survival Evolved, maybe the list would be a little different, but without further ado, let's get into it. Alright guys, coming in at number 5 we have the Raptor. Now, I have the Raptor on this list because I feel like it has a lot of good strong points for early game. To start things off, it is fast. As you can see, these guys can get you around pretty nicely. On top of this, they are good at harvesting. Very nice for getting meat and hide. If I can find a, yep, Dilo right here. And they have this ability, so if I pounce on the Dilo, it can't go anywhere. Easy to keep things where you want them. Easy to stop things from running away. So these guys are great for harvesting, great for moving around, great for keeping you safe. And on top of this, they are very easy to tame. All you really need is a bola and some trank arrows. You could maybe get these guys with a club, but like I don't think I would risk doing that. If you have high enough melee damage, or if you have someone with you, yeah, sure, maybe use a club. But like if you're just by yourself and you don't have increased melee damage, I wouldn't risk using a club. I would try using trank arrows. And yeah, like I said, all you need is a bola and some trank arrows. Not a lot of trank arrows at all. Then on top of that, these guys are easy to keep asleep. Their torpor goes down slowly. It's not like you need a lot of narcotics to keep them out, and you can tame them with raw meat. They're easy to tame. The only struggle I think you could have with these guys is if they're in a pack. But even then, like if you keep your distance and you have multiple bullies, you can maybe you can tame all of them, but at the very least you should be able to survive and knock out at least one. So I think these guys are just great early game. um I highly recommend taming them. Like I said, they are easy to get. So Raptor coming in at number 5. Alright guys, coming in at number 4 we have the Sarko. Now I actually think this guy's pretty underrated as well. To start things off on why I think this guy's so good for early game is he's really fast. And you wouldn't think that because when these guys chase you in the wild, they're pretty slow on land. But when you tame them, you can go pretty fast with them. I would say this is probably like almost this pretty close to the speed the Raptor was going, and you wouldn't think these guys are that fast on land. Okay, and then another thing that's great about these guys is they are so quick in the water. Like I'm telling you guys, look at this. This is like, I'm not sure, but I think this is like faster than a Megalodon when you have a Megalodon tame. Like they are really fast though in the water. Like they're amazing. On top of that, they are very, very strong. Um, well, for early game, they're very, very strong. They're great for harvesting. Look at this. Took out the Dilo that easily, and then look at how much resources these guys would gather from Dilos, or just from anything. These guys are pretty good for gathering resources. They gather lots of meat, lots of hide. They're very good. Um, and these guys are, you would think these guys are pretty hard to tame because they do look intimidating, and you would think that something that looks this intimidating would be pretty hard to tame. They're not. As long as you don't try to tame them in water, you'll be fine. I wouldn't go in water with these guys when they're in the wild though, because like I said, they're slow on land when they're in the wild, but when they're in the water, like they're still this fast in the water whenever they're in the wild. So um yeah, don't try to do anything with these guys in the water when they're still wild. But besides that, yeah, like on land, these guys, like I said, this is about how fast they move on land whenever they're in the wild. They are really easy to tame because they're very slow, and then if they try to run away from you, they're not going to get far. Like I said, unless they're in the water, these guys are just so easy to tame. So because they're just so slow, and I don't think they take too many trank arrows to knock out, and I don't think they take like a ton of narcotics to keep knocked out either. I don't even know if you need narcotics to keep these guys asleep, but if you do, I don't think it's a lot at all. So yeah, these guys are just very strong early game, great for keeping you safe, great for traveling in the water. Like they're just, like I said, great resource gatherers. Like these guys are just great early game. So Sarko's coming in at number 4. All right, guys, coming in at number 3, we have the Pteranodon. Now, these guys are a bit annoying to get early game because their saddles do require chitin, and that can be pretty hard to get early game. On top of this, they do take a good bit of narcotics to keep asleep, if I remember correctly. So Yeah, these guys just they are a bit annoying to get, but once you get them, they're great because, well, as you can see, they're just great for traveling. Their downsides is they do have low weight and low stamina, but if you just want to get from point A to point B, these guys are great. And what I like to do is if there's like no RGs in the area, I'll just carry some light stuff on me, just a crossbow with tranks and the trap, and the Pteranodon should be able to carry all that plus yourself. Go to where some Pteranodon or go to where some Argentavises are, and then just tame up like one or maybe a few of them. So I think Pteranodons are just great early game. Um, they are the plus side to taming these guys though is they are very common. You can find these guys pretty much anywhere, and they don't put up a fight. Like all you need is a bola and a few Trankos. They're very easy to knock out, just a little annoying to keep asleep, and they do take a little like if you're not playing on like a really boosted server, they do take a bit to tame. So that's the only downside to these guys, but I do think they're great for early game. So Pteranodon's coming in at number 3. All right, guys, coming in at number 2, we have the Trike. Now, I have the Trike on this list for a whole bunch of reasons. Number one, they're just great berry gatherers. I feel like early having a good berry gatherer early game is essential because you need narcotics to get like some really good tames later on in the game, right? And a berry gatherer is going to be very important for that. And these guys are just great berry gatherers. On top of that, they are very strong. They can keep you safe from Carnos, Raptors, and if you have multiple of them, even Rexes and Spinos, because they actually get a buff around big carnivores like Rexes and Spinos. And, they have this charge ability, which just does a lot of damage if you hit something with it. So these guys are just they're very strong. They're very good for collecting berries, and I think that just makes them so good early game. And I think you unlock their saddle pretty early too. The only downside to these guys is they are pretty annoying to tame. I don't think you need a ton of narcotics to keep them asleep, but they do take a good bit of trank arrows to knock unconscious. So that's like the only downside I think these guys have. But I do think they're worth what you get. They're very good early game. Like I said, I think having a good berry collector is essential early game. So Trike is coming in at number 2. All right, guys, coming in at number 1, and I think a lot of you guys will be surprised with this, is the Iguanodon. Now, I actually put this guy on my top 5 most underrated creatures in ARK video, and I wanted to put him number 1 on this list because I just think he's so strong to have early game. To start things off, iguanodons are just great berry collectors. Like I was explaining with the trike, I think having a good berry collector is essential early game. And then on top of that, these guys have two stances. They have the bipedal stance I'm in right now, which is great for, harvesting, battling other creatures. These guys are not weak by any means. Like they can keep you safe. But then they have this quadruped stance. Maybe you want to get to point A to point B, or maybe you're trying to run away from another creature. And these guys are just great for moving around. They're fast, and if you look in the top right corner, the iguanodon literally does not use stamina while it's running in the stance. And I think that's so overpowered. Like I think that's so good. Now I think the iguanodon is better for moving around than the trike is, but I think the trike is better at gathering resources, and I think it's stronger than the iguanodon. And I do think that the trike is a better tame to have than the iguanodon, but I'm putting the iguanodon at number 1 because it's just so much easier to tame. With an iguanodon, all you need is a bola and you know, a few Trankos, like anywhere probably from like around 5 to 15, not a lot at all. Trikes, you can't hit them with Ebola, and you need a lot of Trankos to knock them out. So I do think that Trikes are a better tame to have. But I think Iguanodons are better for the amount of effort you put into getting the tame. So because of that, I'm putting the Iguanodon at number 1 and the Trike at number 2. So Iguanodon is coming in at number 1. Alright guys, thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, please leave a like, and if you have any video ideas for me, please leave a comment down below and I'll gladly make a video on it. Also, I would really appreciate a follow on my Twitch channel. My Twitch is SeahorseMilk15, no spaces. I would really appreciate a follow on that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.